Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am beyond thrilled today. We are joined by a man whose imagination turned the Paris Opera House into a place of legend. Please welcome the legendary journalist and novelist, Gaston Leroux. Gaston, it is an absolute honour to have you on the show.
Hi, Calvin. Thank you for having me.
That's the energy we love. So, for those who may somehow not know who you are you?
I am a man who lived 1,000 lives before I ever sat down to write a novel. Most know me as the author of The Phantom of the Opera, but before I was a novelist, I was a man of the press, a globe-trotting correspondent for Le Matin, and a traveler who saw the world through the eyes of a detective.
A true Renaissance man. When and where were you born?
I entered this world on May 6, 1868. As for the where, I was born right in the heart of things, Paris, France.
And what was your given name at birth?
My parents named me Gaston Louis Alfred Leroux. Quite a mouthful, isn't it?
Is there a story behind your birth name?
Not a grand mystery, I'm afraid. My family was quite prosperous and traditional. They chose names that carried a certain weight and respectability. They had very specific dreams for a boy named Gaston Louis Alfred. Dreams that involved a lot of dusty law books.
I bet. What was your hometown like growing up?
While I was born in Paris, I spent much of my youth in Normandy. It was beautiful. Salt air, open spaces, and the sea. It was a bit more peaceful than the frantic energy of Paris, which gave me plenty of room to let my imagination wander.
What was your family life like?
We were well-to-do. My father was a man of means, and there was always an expectation that I would carry on the family's, quote, respectable reputation. It was a comfortable life, but a bit structured for a spirit like mine.
What kind of kid were you?
I was a dreamer. I was the boy with his head in the clouds and his nose in a book. I had a thirst for adventure that Normandy couldn't quite quench. I think I was a bit of a handful for my teachers because I was always looking for the next story rather than focusing on my lessons.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
Oh, I wanted to be a writer, of course. But in a family like mine, writer wasn't considered a real profession. You were expected to be a doctor, a magistrate, or a lawyer. So for a long time, I kept my true dreams tucked away in my pocket.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
I loved literature and anything that involved a good debate. I also had a bit of a flair for the dramatic. I enjoyed theater and the way a well-told story could hold an entire room silent.
What was your first job?
Following the family path, I became a lawyer in 1889. I spent my days in the courts of Paris, surrounded by legal briefs and stern judges. It wasn't the life for me. But it taught me a great deal about human nature and the dark corners of the soul.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
It was in those very courtrooms. While other lawyers were focused on the technicalities of the law, I was fascinated by the drama of the trials. I saw characters, motives, and mysteries where they saw only evidence. I realized I didn't want to defend the law. I wanted to report on the humans caught within it.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Inheriting my father's fortune. It felt like a simple change in bank balance, but it gave me the freedom to say no to the law. I spent that inheritance quite lavishly and quickly, living the life of a boulevardier, but it broke the chains of my legal career and forced me to find my own way as a writer.
What was your biggest break?
My work as a journalist for L'Écho de Paris and later Le Matin. Specifically, my reporting on an anarchist attack on the Chamber of Deputies. That report earned me a reputation as a top-tier journalist and gave me the judicial columnist spot. People began to seek out Gaston Leroux for the truth behind the headlines.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
Balancing the expectations of my family with my own passions. For years, I was living a double life, lawyer by day, writer by night. And when the inheritance ran out, I had to prove that my pen could actually put bread on the table.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Never. The world was too full of mysteries. Even when I was exhausted from traveling to Russia to cover the 1905 revolution, the drive to tell the story kept me going. Quitting would have been like choosing to stop breathing.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
I learned to bring a reporter's eye to fiction. I would research the settings of my books, like the cellars of the opera house, as if I were writing a front-page exposé. And I often found that my best ideas came to me in my dreams. I'd wake up with the solution to a locked room mystery right there in my head.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I likely would have remained a very bored, very mediocre lawyer, probably spending my weekends writing secret stories that no one would ever read.
What was your life like before fame?
It was a whirlwind. As an international correspondent, I was always on a train or a boat. I was witnessing history, revolutions, trials, scandals. It was exciting, but it was also lived in the shadows of other people's stories.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
People often thought I was just a writer of quote-unquote spooky stories. They didn't realize that everything I wrote was grounded in reality. When I wrote about the opera ghost, I truly investigated the opera house. I wanted people to believe the Phantom was real because, in a way, he was.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how did you handle it?
There were times during my reporting in Russia where things were incredibly dangerous. Bloodshed and chaos everywhere. I handled it by staying focused on the task. If you have a notebook in your hand and a story to tell, it gives you a shield against the fear.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
The great storytellers before me, Poe and Conan Doyle. But also the real-life criminals and detectives I met in the morgues and courtrooms of Paris. They taught me more about the human heart than any book ever could.
What was life like in your final years?
I moved to the beautiful city of Nice. It was a quieter life, filled with writing and even a foray into the world of film. I started a film company, Société des Ciné-Romans, because I saw that the future of storytelling was moving to the silver screen.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I was still writing prolifically, more mysteries, more adventures. I was constantly looking for the next medium to master. I wanted to see my characters come to life in every way possible.
When and where and how did you pass away? And how old were you?
I left this world in Nice on April 15th, 1927. I was 58 years old. It was an acute urinary infection that finally caught up with me.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I was awarded the Chevalier de la Légion d'honneur in 1902. It's the highest honor in France, and I received it for my work as a journalist, long before the Phantom ever put on his mask.
What was your favorite food?
I was a Frenchman, Calvin. I loved a good, rich meal. Give me a well-prepared dish of seafood from the coast of Normandy, and I was a happy man.
What was your favorite book?
I always had a deep respect for the works of Edgar Allan Poe. He understood the locked room of the human mind better than anyone.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
People forget that the Opera House really did use its basement to hold prisoners during the Paris Commune. When I was researching, I saw those cells myself. The horror in my books wasn't just imagination. It was built on the stones of history.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Don't wait for permission to be who you are. If you have a story to tell it with the precision of a reporter and the heart of a poet. And never, ever be afraid to look in the cellars.
Gaston, before we sign off, do you have any closing remarks or stories you'd like to share with our listeners?
Just this. The world is far more mysterious than we give it credit for. Look closely at the ordinary things around you. A theater, a locked room, a stranger's face. There is a story hidden there, waiting for someone with the courage to find it. Thank you, Calvin, for letting me step back into the light for a moment.
Gaston, thank you so much for being here. It's been a thrill to peel back the curtain on your incredible life. We've talked about everything from the courtrooms of Paris to the subterranean lakes of the opera. And it's clear that Gaston Leroux was just as fascinating as the characters he created. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.